Hi, Ben Johnson here to record this week's High Tech Friday. This week I showed my teachers 9 ways they could improve and speed up their grading. First, I'd like to shout out props to super teacher Catlin Tucker, who gave me a lot of these ideas through her blog. If you haven't seen her blog, I'd encourage you to check that out. I often hear from many of my teachers they can't go paperless because it's just too hard to grade without having a paper to write on. I disagree, and I'll try to make my case here. Um, I would say a few things. One is doing this for the sake of technology isn't a compelling enough reason to do it. And secondly, even though you could go paperless and save paper by itself, that might not be a compelling enough reason to do that either. But I want to point out some things that I really think make it worthwhile. So what are the prereqs? I would say the first prereq is you have to use the Google Classroom. Without the Google Classroom, you're just not going to be able to do it very efficiently. The Google Classroom takes care of all of the sharing permissions for you within Google Docs so that you don't have to think about it, your students don't have to think about it. So how do you set up a Google Classroom? Well, it's real easy. You just visit classroom.google.com inside of Chrome, and as a teacher you'll just click the plus sign and create a class. And so I'll just do one High Tech Friday and I'll just call it period 5. So as a teacher, setting up a Google Classroom literally takes 5 seconds, as you can see here. Now one thing that you'll have to do in the Google Classroom is give your students the code that's generated. That's how your students will add the Google Classroom to their list of classes, but they'll go to the same address. What makes this magical is the ability that you can add assignments here, maybe something like an essay. You can give it a description, date, due date, all that sort of thing. These are all optional. But what makes this so powerful is this Google Drive connection that it has. And so I've already typed up a essay template to give my students to type their essay into. And instead of assigning it so they can view, I actually want to make a copy for each student. And this is where the magic happens. Without the ability to do this, it would be difficult to go paperless, but now that I can automatically generate a copy of this template or worksheet or whatever the research paper I want, that will take care of all of those sharing permissions that I had to take care of in the past manually. And then I just simply assign that. Now, any of the kids that have joined this class will automatically have a copy of that template. They can click on it and begin work. So that's a prereq. You have to use the Google Classroom. Okay. So the next step to going paperless or high tech is to use the suggestion mode within the student's writing. So I'll just open up Drive and make a quick new doc just for the sake of this demo. And we'll pretend like the students have submitted something to me here. Just bear with me, I wish I had a real paper. In the past, Google Docs didn't have a track changes feature. You could see the revision history, which was limited in its usefulness to teachers. But now, Google has added the track change features. They just call it something a little different. And you can get to it with this pencil. You go to the suggesting mode, and that's Google's track changes. And now anything I do as a teacher will be highlighted in green, and that's going to make it easy for my students to see what changes I made within their paper. In the past, before the suggestion mode, this would have been black, nearly impossible for my students to distinguish my changes compared to theirs. So real helpful feature, and then students can just simply accept those changes. Okay, so the suggesting mode, critical that you switch to that as you grade students' papers. Okay, neither one of those things are really game changers in my mind. Sure, they may be more efficient, they may help reduce paper, they may give your students some good tech skills, but by themselves they don't fundamentally improve this process. One note that I will mention, when I surveyed students about this, they said their preference was to go this route because they would be able to read their students' comments. Evidently, students can't read cursive, or at least their teacher's cursive, that they may have written on a hard copy as well as maybe we could have when we were kids. They're just not, I guess, not used to that. All right, so The next change is, I think, the first fundamental one, and it's this idea of what's called synchronous grading. And Catlin talks about it in her some of her videos, so I encourage you to watch that. But synchronous grading is the idea of, as students are typing within their assignment, you'll be able to pull that from your Google Classroom. You'll see them having turned in their papers. You'll be able to click on their name, and you'll be able to go into their paper just as soon as they begin work. So why does that improve things? Well, within that first paragraph, you'll be able to see if students are on the right track or not, and you'll be able to get them back on the right track if they've veered off course. Now, if you weren't doing it with this whole synchronous grading concept, students may not even realize they've done the wrong type of paper or essay until 2 days later when they've finally submitted it to you. So this idea of grading students as they type is powerful. It will save you time. You can get a lot of your grading done in class. We have 90-minute periods at my school. That sounds like Catlin had the same thing. So do some of that grading in class. Give students that feedback as they write. Catlin is able to hit each student's paper twice in that grading process. So that's huge. All right, the next one, custom lists. Well, you can make custom lists, so the feedback that you give your students that's in common throughout every student, you don't have to recreate. And this is another really powerful, I think, fundamentally could change things. So how do you add custom lists? Well, you just go to your Google Docs and you go Tools, Preferences. You can see here that I've already added many to my list. What I would recommend is if there's a website out there that already has some good information, go out to the University of Wisconsin. They have their writing center, all sort of ideas that you can go ahead and adapt right for your paper. So in this case, incorrect pronoun. My students make that mistake frequently. So I just come back here to my Google Doc, I open up my preferences, I decide which which code I'm going to use to do this, and I'll make it IP. And then I can simply then go to this web page and copy this and paste it right into this box. Now, as I type IP, it will go ahead and automatically populate this statement on the student's paper. Now, this could have just as easily been a YouTube video or a link to a website, so you can place whatever you'd like to place there. And again, you get there from Tools and Preferences, and you can see that I've added IP. If I want it to be available, I just need to make sure to check that, and I hit OK. Okay, so now on the student's paper, if they've used the improper pronoun, I just simply type IP, and magically that statement shows up for the student. I didn't have to type anything. And so why I say this fundamentally changes the grading is that no teacher is going to be able to or have the time to write that lengthy of feedback when a student makes a mistake. And you can have as many of these shortcuts as you'd like. Now, will you remember all of these? Probably not. So what I'd say is use your snipping tool with whatever operating system that you have, and you can simply take pictures of your codes, copy those, and then you can simply paste those onto a Google Doc, and then you can print a hard copy of that, and you can keep that next to your computer as you're grading. You can type in these codes as students make these mistakes, and voila, your student has really thorough feedback that you probably wouldn't be able to invest that time on manually writing that on a paper. So I think this one fundamentally improves that writing and revision process, and the new standards really do incorporate a lot of that draft and revising process, and I think that using these tools will help facilitate that. All right, so the last few things on my list. In addition to the custom lists that you can add, you may just maintain a blank Google Doc that you copy and paste certain comments onto as you're giving students feedback. That way, when you open the next student's paper, you can go ahead and just copy and paste from that Google Doc. It's got a lot in common with the common list. It just may be more convenient to have in certain circumstances. If you do this copy and paste from a list, just go ahead and have your basically have split screen going on, where in the left hand you've got the students page, and on the right hand side you've got your Google Doc where you're copying and pasting from. Most operating systems have a way for you to do that easily now just by bumping the window against the side of the screen. Okay. Um, Something that Catlin talks about is maybe if you're spending too much time grading papers, you need to change the assignment. And the example she gives is that she was doing research papers that were 10 pages long and taking forever to read and grade those things. And in fact, she was just getting at the research standards, so it wasn't really necessary to even have that assignment. So she changed that up to an infographic, so you could require your students to make an infographic, say with the Google Drawing tools or PictoChart or one of those tools like that. The students do the same research, the same amount of research. They have to synthesize information. They have to use higher level thinking skills to transform that. But instead of having to grade 200 research papers that are 10 pages long, the teacher ends up grading one infographic that is simply 1 page long. So think about changing up your assignments. Okay, you can always use Google Forms and Flubaroo to automatically grade multiple choice items, short answer items, fill in the blank kind of items. So if you can, leverage those tools to grade things quickly. A new tool made by an awesome programmer, Gubrick. It allows you to attach a rubric to the student's assignment, and so as you're grading their paper, you can just look on the upper left hand corner. You'll see a rubric. You can mark where the student falls on the rows, and the rubric will score that up, and when you return it to the student, it's attached, and so they have a nice rubric that goes with that assignment. So that's Gubrick. Google it and you'll find some nice YouTube videos that bloggers have made on that topic. Finally, if you've not seen Kaizena, take a look at Kaizena. It's an app that you can plug into Google Docs. It's going to allow you to put on a headset with a microphone like I'm doing here and give your students audio feedback that they can listen to. And you might tend to give richer feedback if you can just speak it quickly into a microphone versus having to type something, although you've got some good tools to address that at this point. Kaizen is a two-way tool. The students can then also voice comment back to teachers. And once you get it installed and get your microphone working, it actually works very well. So those are just 9 ways that I can think of to improve your grading. I would say that you'll be able to grade just as fast using these techniques, but you'll improve the type of feedback and the amount of feedback that you can give your students and really make a richer drafting and revision process, because you are leveraging a tool like Google Docs that has that ability to collaborate easily, whereas on a paper and pencil, students are frankly going to have to wait for you to return that after they've submitted it to you. So anyway, hopefully I've converted some holdouts, and if not, at least you've been exposed to some of these ideas now. So thanks for watching this week's High Tech Friday.